Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts, and I'm excited to introduce you to a new podcast series in partnership with Lord Fairfax Community College. Having provided higher education and career training for the past half-century, LFCC is tightly interwoven into the fabric of the Northern Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions. Join me every week for conversations with current and former students to hear their funny and inspiring stories as we learn about their journey to higher education, the role that LFCC has played, where they are now, and where they plan to go. We'll also talk to current and former professors about their experiences and best memories of LFCC over the past 50 years. Get every single episode as they're released on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for LFCC Stories. Hello and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Friday as you are listening to the show today. It is United Way Friday. It's not technically that because we're pre-recording it on the Zoom screen, but hopefully by the time this airs, we will all three of us be in Friday mood. How about you, Elise? I know you're looking forward to being in Friday mood.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole new state of mind, and I am here for it. Absolutely.
So today you have got on the Zoom screen with us, Brooke Grossman. She is the Chief Mission Officer for Horizon Goodwill Industries. Howdy, Brooke. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys? I'm enjoying some sunshine. It's not snowing, so I feel like that's a win, right?
Oh yeah. My husband laughs now that any forecast with a temperature that has a 5 in front of it, I am like jumping up and down. And he said, you're the one who's always cold. Why is a 5 making you happy? And I'm like, just because. So what are we going to talk about today, Brooke? Do you want to give us kind of a rundown of Horizon Goodwill, kind of educate everybody on what the programs and services are that you guys have to offer?
Sure. So, one of the best kept secrets about Horizon Goodwill is that we're not just a store, right? I think most people think of us as our donation centers and the stores that are super awesome and there to shop at. But 90 cents of every dollar that is spent in our stores goes back to helping us carry out our mission, which is workforce development. And that is for folks that are or underemployed or finding barriers to employment, and a barrier is such a vast term, right? That could be returning from incarceration all the way to, being a young person who's grown up in a non-supportive household who just doesn't even know what the world of work looks like for them. So I hope we'll get to dig into that a little bit. I do have a couple of fun Goodwill expansion business things I'd like to share with you guys, because we are opening 2 new stores in your listeners' region. So one in Mount Jackson and one in Stanley, Virginia. So both will be open about April 1st, and we are actively recruiting for staff to work in those locations. So if anybody out there is looking for a job and interested in working at a Goodwill in Stanley or Jackson, please go to our Horizon Goodwill website and check that out.
And that's a great place to work because you get dibs on all the cool stuff that comes in potentially before it goes on the shelf.
You get to stock it before anybody else buys it, right? And you're not allowed to hide it in the corner. We don't encourage that, but you get to watch it divert attention. Oh, look over here, right? So we're really excited to be expanding into those areas.
Have you seen with this pandemic that you guys have had an increase in those services of people that are entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce, looking for something completely different than what they have experience at doing?
So it's been a kind of a mixed bag. I don't know if either of you are a Friends fan. Do you remember the episode where they're trying to get the couch up the stairs and Ross is yelling, right. Pivot. And so a lot of what we have seen is people have had a reduction in income, earned income through the pandemic, maybe because they lost their job or because more often than not, lack of childcare during distance learning meant that they had to reduce hours so they could be home to support that. And so what we've actually seen, and really I think done a nice job in responding to in 2020 was the need to address more basic needs in the meantime, right? Because if we can't get those, you don't know how you're going to pay your rent or eat today, it's really hard to invest in upskilling or even, focusing on employment. So we've spent a lot of this year, we've had a really great opportunity to partner with the United Way to do some micro grants to support transportation. So those people who might have even been relying on public transportation to get to work in the past, who were impacted by the pandemic, we were able to provide bus vouchers and even gas vouchers to people so that they could keep getting to work. But we've also just kind of really wanted to also say to people during this time, I don't want to send you somewhere else because I know how frustrating that is. So let's have our staff try to do as much as we can for you at once. Um, to get you moving and to stabilize you so that we can start thinking about what work looks like for you going forward.
And at least in a nutshell, that's kind of what United Way has been doing throughout this pandemic, is trying not to send people somewhere else, but find them the help they need in the place they are in that moment.
That's exactly right. And we are no stranger to not wanting to send someone away once they've walked in our doors, and just helping them find the right pathway to success and financial stability. Well, a lot of what you're talking about, Brooke, is just such a key important part of it, because sometimes it is the last thing you're thinking about. You're thinking about food, rent, your car, but all that, wraps around to work. But if you also don't have good health, then you can't work. But then if you don't have the right education, maybe you still can't work. But still, I mean, it's all about finding ways and getting really creative in this economy right now to figure out how to make somebody financially stable, which is, if it takes gas cards to get us there, then I mean, that's what we're going to do.
And I think, Brooke, sometimes when people think in terms of a job, it seems like such a big thing. It's such a daunting thing that they don't always realize that maybe they just need to brush up on a skill, or they need to reach out for a gas card, or find somebody to help with childcare. They're just thinking a job and don't think about all of the small steps they could be taking to get to that bigger step.
Absolutely. And I think, sometimes when you're so kind of inundated with all of the things you have to balance right now, it's hard to see your way out of it, right? It's hard to say, if I just had that gas card, I think I'd be okay, because it feels insurmountable. And so I think, the United Way and Goodwill both want to be that support. Let us help you problem solve through it. Let us help you let's talk about maybe the loss of your last job was not 100% pandemic related. Maybe there was a skill gap. Maybe there was a communication gap. How can we support you to develop that skill that you need so that when you get that next job and we give you the gas card to get there, that you're going to stay and grow, right? And I think sometimes too, people might even think, well, all the jobs out there won't financially cover my bills, right? But it's a start. And so sometimes we have to start somewhere to get to the finish line. So that's part of the the support that vocational case managers and Goodwill staff can provide. Is we have to start. It is not the end line. It is not the finish line. We are literally just shooting off, the starter pistol, and it's a marathon we're about to run, but we're here to do it with you.
Now, do you typically offer those kinds of training scenarios? Are they one-on-one? Do you do it in a classroom setting? I mean, how does somebody go from needing it to getting it?
Sure. So, in a day before the pandemic, we did do an in-person classroom. We are not doing that right now. We offer a virtual classroom for what we call onboarding. And so our onboarding class, our Get On Board program, is you have an instructor, right? Although the cool thing now actually about going virtual is now we have participants, just for everybody else, I should have said this in the beginning, but our Goodwill covers territory in Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. So you now have participants across all 4 of those states creating small cohorts in class to learn together. And that class really is about opening up your mind to the skills that it takes to be successful in the workplace, right? Communication, problem solving, conflict negotiation, even looking at transferable skills. Sometimes if you've been a mom that has stayed home your whole life, or a young person that's never had a job, you go, I don't have any skills, right? But then you think about, I don't know about you guys, but as a mom, there's a lot of skill that it takes to manage a household, right? And get to a job, or just to get out of bed every day. And so we start to talk about, what does that look like? We have a professional resume writer who comes in and partners in that class too, so they can start to build their resume and walk away with it. And maybe hopefully grow a little bit in recognizing that maybe I had some responsibility in the loss of that last job. Maybe I could grow in this area. And so we start that virtually, because we really didn't want to have to limit the number of people we were able to serve because of the pandemic and safety regs. And then they get a warm handoff, if you will, back to the staff that are in the community where they are living. And then they start to work with that person one-on-one of what are next steps beyond. We've done onboarding. We have an internal paid work training program. It's another thing a lot of people don't realize that we do. So maybe you still need some experiential learning, right? We need to put you in the work environment while you're in a place where they get that you might have a case manager, they get that they're there to teach and develop you. And so we can have people up to 90 days working about 28 hours in one of our business units. So not just a store, it could be on a store, it could be on one of our commercial custodial crews, it could be on one of our trucks. So there's lots of different opportunity there. And then ultimately for a lot of folks, what that ends up happening is that paths them into, because it's also a working interview, right? So it paths them into long-term employment with us. And another big investment that Goodwill has made over 2020, and we'll see kind of, I think, the fruits of in 2021, is our internal employee training and development, right? If you're coming in and you're working as a store clerk, or in a production setting, or in one of those entry level positions, we want to help career path and educate people, so that either they're eligible and ready for development and growth within our organization, or to be a great employee, a great team lead, or a great warehouse supervisor or something with another company, so that they're building the stackable skills that they need to also increase that income, right? To get out of that Alice threshold and into sustainable earnings and long-term success. So we have now a whole internal training and development department. We have even gone so far as to kind of reimagine all of our job descriptions to include pathways within it. And we're having them evaluated for ACT work keys now too, so that we can also match a key to positions and adopt that curriculum internally for folks to be able to kind of, step up incrementally. And we know that a lot of other businesses use work keys as well. So they, as they're doing that learning, can see where that might also translate to another position, outside. And we'll be adding to our array of services for internal employees, career coaches. So you'll be assigned to someone who's going to help, again, just like we do in the community for the people we serve, for our employees to hold their hand and walk them through that process.
I think we're going to find when we finally get to the other side of this that there were going to be several more silver linings and things that we learned, that we changed and we tweaked, that are even better than we ever would have thought of had we not gone through the whole pandemic to begin with.
I agree. I think, I don't think we could see that in the midst of, maybe June through December of 2020. I think we were all just trying to keep our heads above water. And, now we look back too, I don't know if you guys do, and go, wow, we did that during that, right? And we still saw, several hundreds of people secure employment and maintain employment, and holy cow, right? Not only did we survived it, we found like an innovative way to do it better. Yeah.
Well, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation on the Zoom screen. It is United Way Day. We are Zooming today with Elise from United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley. Joining her on the Zoom screen is Brooke Grossman. She is the Chief Mission Officer for Horizon Goodwill Industries, and we will be back in just a couple of minutes.
Got a financial decision to make or a goal to reach, but you don't know where to start? You've come to the right place. Introducing Quick Money Chats with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program. Visit tinyurl.com/Quick Money Chat to schedule a virtual chat with a staff member or trained volunteer. We won't tell you what to do, but we will give you the tools you need to choose wisely. And because Virginia Cooperative Extension is part of Virginia Tech and Virginia State, your land-grant universities, you can be sure that our information is credible and trustworthy. And you'll know that we aren't trying to sell you something. Maybe you want to improve your credit score, or reduce your banking overdraft fees, or even figure out if you can afford to buy that car. Sorting through tons of information on the internet can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can be hard to know who to trust. Schedule a Quick Money Chat and get the information you need to take action. Go to tinyurl.com/Quick Money Chat and get financial education personalized for you.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Friday. As you are listening to the show today, it is United Way Day Friday. So we are on the Zoom screen pre-recording our conversation with Elise from United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley. Joining her is Brooke Grossman. She is the Chief Mission Officer for Horizon Goodwill Industries. And Elise, you're always so funny when we go to break when we're recording these, because as soon as we hit the stop button, you're like, oh, I know what I want to talk about when we come back. And then you won't tell me because you want it to be a surprise. So I'm going to hand it off to you.
Well, when we get talking, Janet, I feel like some of our best content is when it's off the air. And that's the stuff that people should really be listening to. And it's just not fair to keep the world from us, So Brooke, when you were talking, you were really making me think about essential workers. And I feel like more than anything, like your programs are almost an essential worker pipeline, maybe. And that over the course of COVID in the last year, those people and those roles have become even more vital to our community. And also things have changed in how we are training them. Are you feeling like a lot of your employees that you've been training are essential workers?
Yeah, they are, right. Of course, our healthcare workers and first responders are essential workers, but we need people that are, I don't know if either of you are experiencing delays in maybe getting items that you've ordered online. Part of that is because there aren't people to pack and ship them to you, or truck drivers to drive them to your house, or, we're seeing even, slows in production of things that we want to put out because of manufacturing delays, right? And while we are often supporting people in getting that first job or that back to work job, we need those employees, right? We need them to keep the chain moving. And so one of the things I think we lose is all of the things that they need to be able to get to that job, like that gas card, like some support from a case manager. We do have a whole kind of line of temp labor services that we can offer to employers with those frontline essential workers that we're training. That comes with a whole bunch of support, right? We make sure they get there. You have a case manager, a point of contact that if you're struggling with an employee, you can let us know and we can come and support you. And what we found in some of the larger facilities that we do that kind of work in is that then we start getting called by like the human resources department for employees that aren't even ours, but can you help, right? And that help is not just about kind of putting out a fire for that company, but it's about mitigating an issue that could have led to that person losing their job. And it's about the employer retaining their workforce and the employee retaining the job and the income, which reduces a burden on the community as a whole, right? If they've got some income, then they're not relying solely on other programs to help pay bills or finding themselves cycling in and out of homelessness or even in and out of incarceration. So you're exactly right. And I appreciate you teeing that up for me.
And I know too, you mentioned this too in the first segment, Brooke, about how sometimes people don't realize what a skill set they have. And I would imagine across the board, those essential workers that are working at Walmart, they're working at some of these big box stores, their employers, their direct managers are seeing how they stepped up and how they came up with there was problems presented that they found solutions to on the spot. They're going above and beyond customer service. Those are all skill sets that are going to do them very well when they move on to their next job, and they should recognize that.
They should. And we also hopefully can help the employer recognize that, like I was talking about, that we're doing internally, that that's an employee that maybe I should recognize that skill set and not be so kind of hung up on that old way of thinking that someone has to have a certain certification or a certain degree to do a job. But if you have one of your cashiers that totally problem solved their way through not having 100 people waiting in line to check out at Walmart, so let's spend some time figuring out what things we could put underneath that cashier so that they could teach others how to do this, right? And let's make that investment because they deserve it. And they're employees that are invaluable to the companies that they work for. You know, it's funny, not one of my employees, but I went grocery shopping the other on Saturday morning, and I try to go really, really early in the morning. I try to avoid people when I'm grocery shopping, COVID or no, but I go really early, and I was tired and I had this big cart, you know, and I was like, oh, I want to buy all this stuff. And the young woman who rung me up was like, I am so excited to see people at 6:30 in the morning. This is my favorite time. And look, you've got all that stuff. And it totally turned my day around, right? And so I, you know, let the manager at that location know, like, she get more of her, especially for those of us that are shopping at 6:30 in the morning. So hopefully we can help kind of change the narrative for businesses too, right? Of how you develop and grow your employees, because for them in the long run, that's going to be your champion. That's going to be your person that when there's, you know, 16 hours of overtime that nobody wants to do, that'll say, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it, you know? And really keep you moving forward should we ever find ourselves in a situation like this again.
And I'll say too, just from, you know, to take a little side road there, if this has happened to you, if you have been out somewhere, whether it's picking up something at the drive-thru at McDonald's or it's Walmart or it's any of the regular places that you shop, and you have had a really good interaction or a really good experience with somebody that worked there, take a second, even if you can't get to the manager in that moment, write down that person's name so you can reach back out later and let that manager know, hey, this was great. I just want you to know XYZ person is doing a good job. That's something all of us can do to build up our community, one employee at a time.
Yeah, and you know, I think another thing outside of pivoting that 2020 taught us was we have to celebrate, right? Recognize the wins, recognize, you know, when somebody went above and beyond for you or really changed, you know, the trajectory of your day just because of something small that they did. Because we also don't know what they had to deal with just to get there, right? And you know, I think we can all agree we like it when somebody tells us we did a good job, right? So yeah, I mean, let's celebrate all of it. Anything that is positive, let's highlight it, and move away from always getting kind of caught up in the bad stuff.
And I will go on record because I have said this before to many people. I don't know that I've actually said it on the air. Elise is one of my favorite co-hosts. She is always prepared. She is one of the few people that do the radio show with me every month that I don't have to worry for a second that she's not going to have something to talk about or can't carry the conversation. So thank you, Elise. I will send this little snippet of a recording to Nadine this week.
Well, thank you, Janet. And I will do the same to your bosses over at the station because you are a pleasure to do a show with. And Brooke, way to go too. You are making this a great show for me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So speaking of looking back and celebrating some of the little things and the big things, Elise, you know, everybody who listens knows that I serve on the board for United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley. And we had our annual meeting not that long ago. And again, kudos because it was a beautiful presentation, a pivot. You had to do it virtually. We couldn't do it in person. There was no dinner involved or food other than the snack that I was eating when I kept turning my camera off. But it was a really well attended event. And you guys have done a lot in 2020, pandemic or no.
Yeah, no kidding. It's kind of bizarre when you look back at our last year, you know, that we had started like it's been a year now. We had our first Project Connect, which was a huge success for us, connecting people to the resources in the community, but that was live and in person, and how things have changed. We will see what happens going forward with that. Hopefully we can do that again soon. I mean, but we've also done so many other things this year, from still managing to do our day of caring to working throughout COVID on the CARES Act program, getting valuable funding into the, the agencies and the neighbors that need it the most, to, I mean, you name it, working with, throughout our community just to try to get through COVID, and with our own COVID-19 relief fund. We have really been hustling this year. And honestly, we've been working harder, I think, than ever before, but it shows. We are really excited this last year to, I think, raise more than we have ever raised ever. Our campaign, which is still keep on going, it's still not quite complete, is at 950,000, which is incredible considering we are expecting a 20% deficit this year, which would put us down at about 800,000. And so we have been hustling, and we're not even done yet. We still have some outstanding campaigns. So I'm pretty darn confident that we're going to reach that $1 million mark, which in this economy is pretty cool. We also distributed over $650,000 in CARES Act funding to the local agencies and folks that need it. Deployed over 200,000, and 100,000 of that was matched by United Way. To our COVID-19 relief fund, and among other grants, over 200,000 in Valley Assistant Network program grants. So that puts us at a pretty amazing number of 1,800,000, and that is crazy. That's $1 million more than we thought we were going to raise this year. But that just says, we are United Way are an incredible part of our community, and we are so connected and so proud to do the work to make sure our community it thrives throughout this pandemic. That the money sort of speaks for itself, that we are doing some serious work here, and we are honored to do it.
And it's crazy because when you add all of that together and then throw in, it was in the middle of a pandemic. You guys were working from home. Some of you weren't going into the office at all. You couldn't do things in person. There weren't all of these little fundraising events and wine tasting parties and things like that I could host for the campaign. And you still managed to go above and beyond.
It takes a lot of generosity, and we've had a lot of first-time donors that really stepped up, and campaigns and local companies that, we thought we would expect that deficit, but people just, they prove how generous they are. And that if some people that even, might have had a reduction still in their hours and pay, still gave back whatever they could. And it absolutely makes a huge difference here. And we are seeing the fruits of that labor right now when we're getting ready to give it all out through a fund distribution process. So we are so excited and so privileged to be able to do this.
I got my email this morning from Jennifer telling me about the training for fund distribution. That was both the best part and the hardest thing about being part of the United Way organization, was hearing all of these great things that all of these great organizations are doing. And then at the same time, knowing there's only a finite amount of money and they all need all of the money, but there's only so much of it that we have to give back. It was tough.
It is super tough, but also very, very rewarding. It's super hard for us to watch it as staff because, as staff members, we have so many opinions on agencies and programs, and we know people, we have relationships with clients, and, we are so involved in so many different parts of it, but that's exactly why we stay out of it. And we make sure that, a diverse group of the community, so people from all walks of life, are out there making decisions for us on these volunteer panels. And this year we are just super excited to be able to give that money that we raised right back out and really make a big difference in the programs and the people that need it the most.
And before we wrap up, another way people can give that is an awesome way, because they also get to receive, is the Rubbermaid sale. Is it happening this weekend?
You betcha. The sale is Saturday, so that is a big deal. Please come on out. It starts at 8 a.m. and it wraps up at noon. And we are just so excited to be benefiting AIDS response efforts here in the Winchester area. And this is 100% volunteer driven. And all the products we sell are donated from Rubbermaid commercial products. So we could not do this without them. And then also the Salvation Army, who picks up any surplus product at the end of the sale. So we are very, very, very thankful for Rubbermaid and this partnership that makes this possible. And we hope that you come on out 8 a.m. at Apple Blossom Mall in Winchester on Saturday, the last Saturday of every month. And come on and shop and see what we have. The early bird definitely gets the worm.
Especially if you want a trash can. The early bird definitely gets the trash cans.
Absolutely. Or pitchers, Tupperware, buckets, brooms, you name it. Mops, you got it.
So,
the
Brooke,
last time
before we wrap up, if somebody is listening and they want to reach out to Horizon Goodwill for any number of reasons, do you guys have a website? What is the best first place for them to start to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. So they should start with the website, horizongoodwill.org. And that will walk you through, some of those really neat business opportunities I was talking about, like the new stores opening, or even I will give you guys just a quick shameless plug of, most people also don't know that you can shop Goodwill online. So we have shopgoodwill.com. And so we have a whole e-commerce line of items that are really cool, especially if people are collectors. I know we just sold a collection of Pokemon cards for almost $5,000. So if you have Pokemon cards, right, you can drop them off at your local Goodwill. But Shop Goodwill is an opportunity. It also it can give people who just want to know a little bit more about who we are, or read success stories. Those are on there. And then there's an online link, an application to our services, and then also our careers page. So any jobs that we have open, we have grown, another, like I said, we're opening 2 new locations. We opened one during 2022. So we were not restricting business or employment opportunities. We were growing them in the time of a pandemic, and are pretty aggressively growing even further this year. So please, www.horizongoodwill.org, and they can find, there's a picture of me on there that'll tell you about mission and those kinds of things, and my email is there, but it can link you to anybody internally that you might be interested in learning more information from.
And UnitedWayNSV.org is the best first place for you, Elise, along with all the social media networks.
Absolutely. Definitely check out our website, UnitedWayNSV.org, or type into Google United Way in Winchester, and that'll get you started.
Fantastic. Well, we are going to wrap up our conversation for United Way Day. We have been on the Zoom screen with Elise from United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley. Along with her has been Brooke Grossman. She is the Chief Mission Officer for Horizon Goodwill Industries. I will put links to everything that we talked about up on the show notes page. Go out and have a great weekend. I think it's going to be a little bit rainy, but hey, it's not going to be freezing cold, and it's not going to be snow. I will meet you back here on Monday. I will be chatting with John Huddy from Hanley Regional Library. That's always a fun conversation. So meet me back here to have a listen just a few minutes after noon.